Hello everybody, welcome back to It's Current Year for another quick battle ladder replay. It's definitely a Twist in the Twilight themed report today. I am playing the Wood Elves up against the Skaven elements of the DLC in both lists. So we'll go through my opponent's army first. He has the 3 units of Night Runners out the front. So obviously a little bit of skirmish, bit of vanguard. They aren't stalked, so I do see them. And we have a bit of a boxed formation here. So a mixture of clan rat spears, Skaven slave spears, all just that sort of cheap road blocking infantry. A couple of Eshin triads at the back here, one of which is Ishka's triads, obviously with their clone ability, which allows them to just create that little doppelganger of themselves. We have a Packmaster here on the Brood Horror, 2 units of Plague Wind Mortars, as well as the Blightscab's Plague Pack, obviously with their Rabble Rouse effect, which will stop terror routes, immune to psychology. There are some sources of terror on the Wood Elf roster, so but they have a very good damage output, obviously magical and armor piercing attacks. So pretty cool unit to see there in the midst of the sort of the value here. So yeah, two Plague Wind Mortars. We have the Packmaster here, as we mentioned, on the Brood Horror. So he is rocking the Shock Collar, which obviously zaps the Molder monsters into action with the melee attack and leadership. Running with the Pack, which gives him the Molder monsters around him regeneration, as well as obviously the naturals. And obviously a natural regen. So he has a lot of hit point regeneration abilities here. He'll pass that on to Throt the Unclean, which is leading the force as well. So he has his Beast Pack Rat Ogre summon, the Remolded ability, which we've been over on the channel, really good burst heal. So he's got a lot of healing between these two monsters. Doesn't look like he has taken the Things Catcher, which is interesting. No Things Catcher on him. I like that ability. It does. I guess the immune psychology is being taken up by the Blightscabs, but having the anti-large can be pretty useful in some situations. So for my forces, gone a pretty mixed force here. 2 units of Dryads out the front, obviously great for buzzing through clan rats, slaves. 3 units of Eternal Guard, just to be a little bit more sturdy. If we have things like Rat Ogres, they'll obviously with their anti-large. 2 units of the Blade Singers. As I said, I don't know if they're super cost effective in this matchup. There's obviously a lot of low tier infantry for them to chew through. So I guess defaulting out to the Whirling Death here makes them pretty dangerous. They'll also obviously chew through the Blightscab's Plague Pack really well, but just unsure, sort of testing them out in this matchup to see whether they can survive things like clan slave slingers, mortars, things like that. They'll be a pretty high priority target. So another unit of Eternal Guard back here. I have 3 units of the regular Glade Riders with shields and the Wild Hunters of Kornos. Again, great for just working down large targets, particularly Rat Ogres. They don't have fantastic armor piercing, so they deal with Rat Ogres well with their low armor values. I've taken the Glade Captain here. I've taken her on foot. I actually thought I'd picked her on the horse here, but she has her obviously Dance of Leok buff. She's basically just a sniper. Like I said, I was going to put her on a horse and actually run her with the Glade Riders to give them a bit of a melee buff. But she can sort of do a bit of both, bit in combat, bit of shooting, and the like. Leading the force, we have Drycha. I have taken every spell, every ability off her except for the Rouse to Wrath Dryad summon. She's really cheap when you take her like this. She's about 1100 gold, reasonably good combat stats. Obviously, she'll duel someone like... she'll probably lose to Skrulk in combat, but given the one thing she does lack is armor piercing, she's got some okay armor piercing. She'll buzz, she'll hit through them pretty well, and obviously causing fear does help her in the infantry fight. But I have taken Ariel, the Queen in the Woods herself here. I actually really like what she brings to the table. So we've got the berry wine.
I don't even like wine, but guess what? You're gonna like it.
We've also got the Acorn of the Ages, the Dart of Doom, which is the magic missile, which also debuffs weapon strength for a time being. I'm on the fence about whether this is worth it. It's not a cheap item, but I'm just sort of testing it all out here. For spells, I've just taken the Apotheosis and the Soul Stealer. So the Apotheosis will obviously be used alongside the Berry Wine, and the Berry Wine can only target... and I can target everything, but yeah, she's got a lot of healing potential in here. For a hero spellcaster to have Greater Arcane Conduit is also pretty handy as well. If you had some leftover money, you could easily pop, Enfeebling Foe, or perhaps even Melkoth, something cheap like that on Drycha, and actually make use of her skill, her spell set. So we'll get the battle underway. It will get underway reasonably quickly here. I have a little bit of Vanguard deployment. So, like I said, I'm still sort of in the testing phase, still unsure whether the Blade Singers will really be value for money here. I think you could probably get the same job out of War Dancers. That's just my initial sort of thoughts on it, but play testing through here to see how they match up against the Skaven. The Mortars are going to be an issue for me. They're probably going to target down the Eternal Guard with their tightly packed formations. We've talked about this before on the channel, but you want to split your fire with these. I think this is probably a mistake right off the bat. You don't need both units firing at the same unit. Obviously, there's a massive amount of damage here, but one good volley on a unit of really anything does a ton of damage with the mortars, and it also spreads the damage over time effect. This is another sort of a little mistake I guess my opponent has made. Yes, this unit has been crushed, but it's everything, all the damage has gone down on the one unit here. I like to actually pivot my mortars and actually change targets after a single volley, just to spread the damage over time effect around. So you see my opponent doing that now, attacking these Dryads, also attacking the Blade Singers, which is obviously a great, a very valuable target for them. So as I said, I've popped Well in Death. They need a lot of base damage. I've identified that basically nothing in this army has any armor to speak of, and we've also done the Rouse to Wrath Dryad summon in here. The Malevolent Dryads have come through. They'll put a fair bit of damage into the Blight Scabs, but they will be... Oh, well, I say that. No, they won't. They get routed off very, very quickly. So that's a nice little response there, but I wanted to shut down the Night Runners and potentially even get into the Mortars, but unfortunately, good response there from my opponent with the Blight Scabs. Now, Ariel does get a little bit ganged up on here with her... with the Rat Ogres. Ariel does cause terror though, so I think she's actually a solid combat pick in her own right, but against the Skaven, a faction that is very susceptible to mass routing and terror outs, going to be a bit of a thorn in the side there for my opponent. So we see Ariel coming under pretty much a pretty tough opposition here, but she has popped Berry Wine, so...
Sweet berry wine!
Usually with the Berry Wine, you got to spit it out, but she's drunk the whole thing there.
I'm supposed to spit it out. But no way, Jose, am I spitting this stuff out? It tastes like fruit.
Blade Singers, like I said, probably not getting great value. They've actually been routed off one unit. I've also had my Glade Riders. They've pushed around into the back here, so the Mortars have gone quiet. We've managed to shut them down, and we might get some regrouping infantry here. But you see Ariel here with the benefit of the Berry Wine has really regained a lot of hit points.
Wine was invented by the Romans for orgies.
These Rat Ogres are about to degen, and I have pulled the Wild Hunters of Kurnos out with their anti-large to start to deal with the Packmaster and the Throt the Unclean up on their Brood Horrors. So at the moment, the Glade Captain probably needs to be a little bit closer to try and impart some of that melee attack buff, but she's just sniping away at the moment, trying to just get some of that plinking damage down on Throt the Unclean. We see the second Rouse to Wrath from Drycha going down. As I said, Drycha's in here pretty happily, just chewing through some Blight Scab's Plague Pack, which is a good, I guess, a good use of her sort of combat abilities. And this Rouse to Wrath here, this Dryad summon is going to be really pretty good at just buckling this infantry line here. We see a pretty mass retreat from the Skaven infantry. The morale obviously on Clan Rats and Skaven Slaves is not particularly good. Acorn of the Ages has gone down as well on this mass here of Night Runners. So they have obviously have this, I think there's a speed debuff from that as well. So they'll also struggle to get away while they're routing from the Malevolent Dryads. And we're sort of getting to the point now where we're almost on cleanup duty. We have had the Ishkas Dryads pop their clone over here. The Glade Captain has moved a little bit closer, and you just see the steady sort of slow damage that she's been able to put onto Throt. Ariel is obviously back up to full health. I think she's also gotten a few a few soul stealers off, which has helped her health just sort of be regained from that initial combat. The Packmaster's sort of just fighting by himself now. Throt's probably going to be chased off by some Glade Riders. We've got some Glade Riders over here just perusing the back line to make sure, you know, the Night Runners and the Mortars don't come back and fire into that big blob. But all in all, a pretty decent battle. Not a ton of value being accrued on the Blade Singers. I think I'm probably gonna, at this stage, with the experience I've had with them, I think against the Skaven and factions like the Skaven, Beastmen, Orcs and Goblins, and probably even the Undead, I think you can probably get the same job done with regular War Dancers and save yourself a couple of 100 points there. But they do cut through low tier infantry, mid tier infantry very, very quickly. They obviously trade very well, I guess, with things with low armor values themselves, when they can pop the Whirling Death and pump their base damage up really well. I'm a big fan of Ariel. I think she's, as I said at the start, anytime you can get a hero caster with greater Arcane Conduit, it really opens up a lot of options. She has a good array of spells. She has a lot of healing, a lot of damage output. She's very versatile. She's and even against a low morale faction like the Skaven, having her in sort of the thick of the fighting, she can do a lot of work through just her terror outs. Got to make sure she doesn't get isolated, because obviously she can get gooned down. She doesn't have a lot of armor, but she does have some physical resistance and some decent melee defense. And she's obviously got access to a number of really good healing options with Apotheosis, Soul Steal, Berry Wine. Drycha, again, Drycha in this, I think Dryads are the Malevolent Dryads are a pretty good summon. She hasn't got a lot of value here in her own right, but you have to remember that she gets value through her summons, and they don't come up on her tooltip as well. And against a faction where you can summon Dryads on top of things like slaves, get them onto weapons teams. She's also very good, I've found, against Bretonia and the Beastmen, just because Dryads have a good matchup against fairly low tier, low armored infantry. I think she's a pretty cheap choice. Not sure the Glade Captain gave a lot to this build, but I'm obviously still in the testing phase where I'm using these new units, seeing if I can make them work. I think the Glade Riders are going to be a mainstay in a lot of forces. Similar to, I guess, Illyrian Reavers or Dark Riders. The fact that they have a shield block chance automatically sort of puts them in the upper tier of I guess, fast cavalry, just with their missile block chance, their ability to chase things like the Night Runners, or routing infantry, I guess, in other matchups as well. Chameleon Skinks with their missile block chance don't get as good a value against them. So yeah, I sort of am just tinkering around with a few builds at the moment, trying to use the new elements. Obviously, there are a few elements here. The Packmaster and Throt combo were, again, a lot of regen there, a lot of ability to regain hit points. I like the Things Catcher on this guy, and I think he turns Rat Ogres. Throt turns Rat Ogres into absolute world beaters, but obviously other things can also benefit from the anti-large. So I think the Things Catcher is something you need to make room for when you're using Throt, because it's a real damage multiplier. But that was a cool battle. I'm enjoying the new DLC. It's been too long, and I think it's injected a lot of excitement back into the community. So big ups to Ariel in this build. We've got a few more replays with the new elements of both factions coming up. So stick around, and we'll check them out in the coming days. Till then, though, take care.
Mike, you want to check on Steve real quick?
Tell him how it tastes, Steve. All right, let's do it.
Steve? Steve, are you okay over there?
There's all kinds of other wines. Peanut Nor. We got all different kinds, and that's our Steve. I'm Dr. Steve Brule for your wine. Come here, Jenny. Jenny.